Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajaka Astotoda Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajaka Astotoda Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you, Sean, you there? Can you turn this down for me? This is really, oh, and we never put the sacred words on the floor. Next time, okay? Hold on to it, he'll pick it up. Okay. Okay, let's see what we got here. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Deving saraswatim vyasam Tato Jayamudiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who's glorified in the finest of songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, give me 1 second here. On this 20th day of July 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're going to read the last two verses of chapter 18, entitled Lord Vāmanadeva, the Dwarf Incarnation. This is 18, 30, and 31. And then we'll begin the next chapter. So I'll read these myself. Okay, actually it's 31, 32. Adyagnayo me suhuta yatavadi dvijatmajatvat chadana vinejanai hatang haso varbiriyam chaburaho tatapunita tanubi padaistava. O son of a Brahman, today the fire of sacrifice is ablaze according to the injunction of the Shastra, and I have been freed from all the sinful reactions of my life by the water that has washed your lotus feet. O my Lord, by the touch of your small lotus feet, the entire surface of the world has been sanctified. Can we shut this? Yeah, shut this one. If you need, open that one a little bit. Okay, so this is Bali speaking, right? Must be. And final verse of the chapter. All right, I'll skip the Sanskrit. O son of a Brahman, it appears that you have come here to ask me for something. Therefore, whatever you want, you may take from me. O best of those who are worshipable, you may take from me a cow, gold, a furnished house, palatable food and drink, the daughter of a Brahman for your wife, prosperous villages, horses, elephants, chariots, or whatever you desire. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 18th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Vāmanadeva, the Dwarf Incarnation. I'll call him Dwarf Brahman Incarnation. Okay, so I'm going to read the chapter summary of the next chapter 19, entitled Lord Vāmanadeva Begs Charity from Bali Mahārāja. This 19th chapter describes how Lord Vāmanadeva asked for 3 paces of land in charity, how Bali Mahārāja agreed to his proposal, and how Śukadeva forbade Bali Mahārāja to fulfill Lord Vāmanadeva's request. When Bali Mahārāja, thinking Vāmanadeva to be the son of a Brahman, told him to ask for anything he liked, Lord Vāmanadeva praised Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha for their heroic activities. And after thus praising the family in which Bali Mahārāja had been born, he begged the king for 3 paces of land. Bali Mahārāja agreed to give this land in charity, since this was very insignificant. But Śukadeva, who could understand that Vāmanadeva was Vishnu, the friend of the demigods, forbade Bali Mahārāja to give this land. Śukadeva advised Bali Mahārāja to withdraw his promise. He, Śukadeva, explained that in subduing others, in joking, in responding to danger, in acting for the welfare of others, and so on, one could refuse to fulfill one's promise, and there would be no fault. By this philosophy, Śukadeva tried to dissuade Bali Mahārāja from giving land to Lord Vāmanadeva. Okay, text 1. Shri Śuka Uvacha Iti Vairochaner Vakyam Dharma Yuktam Sasunritam. Oh, we forgot the Sa. Hare Krishna. All right, before the Sunritam there is a word, Sa, S-A. Can you remember it? Let's see how you do it. Nishamya Bhagavan Pritaha Pratinandyedam Abravit Shri Śuka Uvacha Iti Vairochaner Vakyam Dharma Yuktang Sasunritam Nishamya Bhagavan Pritah Pratinandyedam Abravit Shri Śuka Uvacha Iti Vairochaner Vakyam Dharma Yuktang Sasunritam Nishamya Bhagavan Pritah Pratinandyedam Abravit Shri Śuka Uvacha Iti Vairochaner Vakyam Dharma Yuktang Sasunritam Nishamya Bhagavan Pritah Patinandjedam abravit. Sri Shuka Uvacha. Iti Vairocane Vakyam. Dharma Yuktam Sasunvitam. Nishamya Bhagavan Pritah. Patinandjedam abravit. Sri Shuka Uvacha. Iti Vairocane Vakyam. Dharma Yuktam Sasunvitam. Nishamya Bhagavan Pritah. Patinandjedam abravit. Anyone else want to try? Sri Shuka Uvacha. Iti Vairocane Vakyam. Tam Sasunvitam. Nishamya Bhagavan Prita. Patinandjedam abravit. Anyone online want to try? Sunday, maybe Vijay's on vacation. Okay. All right, word by words. Sri Shuka Uvacha. Sri Śukadeva Gosvāmī said, Iti, thus, Vairochanehi, of the son of Virochana, Vakyam, the words, Dharma Yuktam, in terms of religious principles, Saha, he. This Su is also missing in. Oh no. What is it? Is that the verse we're chanting? Yeah. All right, we missed the Su. Okay, Saha, he. Sunvitam, very pleasing. Nishamya, hearing. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pritaha, completely pleased. Pratinandya, congratulating him. Idam, the following words. Abravit, said. Translation. Śukadeva Gosvāmī continued, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vāmanadeva, heard Bali Mahārāja speaking in this pleasing way, he was very satisfied, for Bali Mahārāja had spoken in terms of religious principles. Thus the Lord began to praise him. Let's see how he praises him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O King, you are indeed exalted because your present advisors are the Brahmins who are descendants of Bhrigu, and because your instructor for your future life is your grandfather, the peaceful and venerable Prahlāda Mahārāja. Your statements are very true, and they completely agree with religious etiquette. They are in keeping with the behavior of your family, and they enhance your reputation. Purport. Prahlāda Mahārāja, that's Bali's grandfather, Prahlāda Mahārāja is a vivid example of a pure devotee. Someone might argue that since Prahlāda Mahārāja, even though very old, was attached to his family, and specifically to his grandson Bali Mahārāja, how could he be an ideal example? Therefore, this verse uses the word prashantaha. A devotee is always sober. He is never disturbed by any conditions. Even if a devotee remains in grahastha life and does not renounce material possessions, he should still be understood to be prashanta, or sober, because of his pure devotion to the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu there said, Kiba vipra, kiba nyasi, shudra kene noi, jai Krishna tattva veta, se guru hoy. Whether one is, who remembers who this verse was spoken to, besides Ramapati? Anyone have any idea? Ramananda Roy. Yeah, chapter 8 of the Madhya Lila. Check it out. Because, anyway, I'll tell it later. Anyone completely aware, this is from CC Madhya 8.128, anyone completely aware of the science of Krishna, regardless of his status in life, is a guru. Thus, Prahlāda Mahārāja is a guru in all circumstances. Here, His Lordship Vāmanadeva also teaches sannyasis and brahmacharis that one should not ask more than necessary. He wanted only 3 paces of land, although Bali Mahārāja wanted to give him anything he wanted. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this pastime is filled with entities who seem to be one thing, but actually are another. Prabhu, when you're sitting down, maybe you really skewed that painting up there. Look at it. Yeah, please straighten. A little more. Okay, that's good. Very good. Thank you. So let's just see how that happens. First of all, we have Bali Mahārāja. Now, Bali Mahārāja, welcome, Ishtadev. Long time no see. Sorry to disappoint you. Bali Mahārāja is up in L.A. Maybe you know that. I don't know if you know. So Bali Mahārāja is the grandson of Prahlāda. And we may remember that when Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu and Prahlāda offered his prayers, he offered him any benediction he wanted. And Prahlāda protested. I'm not doing business with you. I'm not some kind of Vanik, you know. It's not like I did service for you for I wanted anything. Please don't tempt me, my Lord. I was born in a demon's family. I have some of those tendencies. This is what he was saying. So, but then he saw that Nrsimhadev really wanted to give him something, you know. So he saw this as a service by accepting some gift from Nrsimhadev. So you know what he asked? The first thing he asked for is not as famous as the second thing. I forget the Sanskrit. He said, if you really want to give me a benediction, or best of the benedictors, please may material desires never arise in my heart. That's the benediction I want. And then he also asked that his father would be delivered, because his father was Hiranyakashipu, whose very name indicates his demeanor. Hiranya is gold, and Kashipu is soft bedding. So Prabhupada, in explaining his name, yes, you know, he was after so much gold, more and more power, more and more wealth, and he wanted soft bedding and the bed companion. So these are the 2 things that the demons are after. Lust and greed, right? Those are the 2 main characters. So that was Hiranyakashipu. Of course, he had a backstory also. He wasn't really who he seemed to be. He was Jai of Jai and Vijay, let's say, who were the servants of Krishna in Vaikuntha. They were doorkeepers. And when the 4 Kumaras had come, 4 Kumaras weren't yet pure devotees. They were Brahmavadis. They were absorbed in Brahman, and they were full of knowledge, and they were, you know, great souls. But they hadn't yet taken the full leap of being devotees yet. So they came to the gates of Vaikuntha. And they came through so many gates, and then the last gate was protected by Jai and Vijay, who were doorkeepers. They had some kind of poles or something to protect. And they wouldn't let him in, because they weren't actually Vaishnavas yet. You know, they were Brahmavadis. So, and they proved that they weren't yet Vaishnavas, becoming furious, becoming very angry at these Jai and Vijay and cursing them, you know, to come down and become demons for a certain number of births. Now all this ruckus at the gate, then Vishnu came, walking to see what the disturbance is. And as he approached, he had the wonderful lotus feet, and they would be decked with tulsi leaves and tulsi manjuris. These are the flowers of the of tulsi. They have a distinctive fragrance. So when the fragrance of those tulsi manjuris entered the nostrils of the 4 Kumaras, they completely changed and became devotees. They became completely purified then. And they completely regretted what they'd done. They had cursed these 2 devotees. And they were offering prayers, oh Lord, we're surely destined for hell. But please, wherever we are, let our tongues always glorify you. Let our ears always hear your glories, like that. So they're praying like that. So meanwhile, Jai and Vijay, they were given a choice of having take on demonic incarnations and come back in 3 births, or take on devotee incarnation and come back in a lot of other births. So they took the demonic when they wanted to get back to Vaikuntha as soon as possible. So the first pair was Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, and their glories are sung in the 7th canto. So anyway, what happened was that Hiranyaksha, his main name means always looking for gold. You see, that's what his name means. Both have Hiranya. They were twins, actually. And so in his course of doing that, he unbalanced the earth. He took so much gold out of the earth that it became unbalanced and fell into the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean, which is a disaster. So the Lord took a special incarnation, the boar incarnation, with a big snout, big boar, so that he could root around and get that earth up and bring it up to the surface. So he went down and did that, and meanwhile Hiranyaksha was also after him. And when he was coming up, he went down and dove in there, and when he was coming up with the earth, he was insulting him and saying, "This, why don't you fight me?" So anyway, there was a fight, a short fight, and of course Varaha, the boar incarnation, killed Hiranyaksha. So this enraged Hiranyakashipu when he found out, and became even more inimical toward the Vaishnavas and, of course, Vishnu. And then in the 7th canto, I won't go through the whole story, how Prahlad was born as his son. He was initiated and trained by Narada Muni while he was in the womb of his mother. So when he was born, Hiranyakashipu had no idea that he was a devotee. So he started training him in the school and everything, sent him to school. But he very, very courageously started preaching to his father, as you should take shelter of Lord Hari, of Lord Krishna. So, who was this? How did he learn this stuff? Anyways, the whole story. Eventually, Nrsimhadev came and slew Hiranyakashipu. So meanwhile, Prahlad had these beautiful prayers in the 7th canto, chapter 9. And after the prayers, Nrsimhadev offered a benediction. And so I told you the first one, he said, "Let me not ever have any material desires." But another one was, "Please let my father be purified and delivered." So he said, not only a father, but many generations forward and many generations back are all delivered by just your being such a pure devotee. So Bali was one of the generations forward. He's a grandson. And so but he's born in a demonic family, So he's leading the demons, and because they had the blessing of the Brahmins, namely Śukadeva, they became more powerful than demigods, and they were able to kick the demigods out of the heavenly planets, and the demons then took over, So then the backstory is that Diti, the mother of the demigods, was devastated by this. She asked her husband to give her some sacrifice or some mantra by which she could, So he gave her this Payovrata ceremony. He described it in detail. Payovrata means the milk vow. You vow to drink only milk for how many days? 12 days, I think. So she performed everything and said the mantras perfectly. And so the result of that was that Narayan appeared as her child. And shortly thereafter, he turned into this little Vamana incarnation. Because he couldn't just come and then, annihilate the demons. He didn't want to anyway, because Bali's there. So he said, because they have the blessing of the Brahmins, especially Śukadeva, that's how they became so powerful. So he very ingeniously figured out how he could break that relation between the Brahmins, Śukadeva especially, and the leader of the demons, Bali. So that's what we're going to hear here. How he became as Narayan, but then he appeared as a dwarf Brahmin. This is something that you'll know that most devotees don't know, but I told him here. The word dwarf in English alone, you know this, Ishtadev. Dwarf means someone who is small and kind of contorted because of a disease. Vamana wasn't a dwarf. He was beautiful, although he was small. But dwarf, as an adjective, can just mean diminutive. So I think he's a dwarf Brahmin, not a Brahmin dwarf. He's a dwarf Brahmin. Anyway, it's an editorial thing. So now we're going to hear this. We just read. So, O king, you are indeed exalted because your present advisors are the Brahmins, who are descendants. So this is Vāmanadeva, speaking to King Bali. And he also mentions Prahlad here. His statements are very true, and they completely agree with religious etiquette. So here's Bali, who's supposedly a demon, but he glorifies Vāmanadeva when he sees, because he's actually a devotee. He's a great devotee. And so you have Vāmana, the Lord, acting as a little brahmachari when he's actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which he'll show in a few minutes. And you have this demon Bali, who's, he's acting like a great devotee, because he's greeting Vāmanadeva and glorifying him. So you have people taking on different identities here. That's what's going on. Okay. And then Prabhupada takes the opportunity to praise Bali Mahārāja. There are these 12 Mahajans who actually carry the Dharma. They're preaching, and they're all acharyas, and our whole. If you study the list, you see that they come in. They come on the stage of the Bhagavatam at one point, and they have their instructions, and there are instructions for us as well. And the one who comes in most is Narada Muni. Every canto he appears and has a role to play, whereas the others just come once, but they're all great souls. And Bali is one of them, and each of them exemplifies a certain aspect of devotional service. And Bali, he exemplifies, who remembers, Rasika? What? Yeah, you know that, Ishtadev? You raised your hand. He knows, he's been studying. So this is, Atma-nivedana means full surrender of everything, of yourself, And it's kind of the last one, it's a very, very advanced state to be, to have absolutely no separate interests from the Lord. That's the definition of pure devotee. So Bali will show that here when Vāmanadeva tricks him, and he expands, and he takes over the whole universe in 2 steps. He offered him 3 steps of land. Because he believed that he's God, well, he certainly offer him, And he said, only 3 steps of land. Come on, I can give you a planet. I can, I said, and Brahman says, the Brahman must be satisfied with very little. It's not. I don't need planets and everything. All I need is 3 steps of land. But the 2 steps of land turned out to be the whole universe. And when he expanded, as soon as he got the blessing, he expanded into this huge universal form. And he steps this way, and takes over the whole world. Then one more step, he takes the universe, pierces the covering of the universe, the causal ocean water starts trickling in and washes his feet, and that becomes the Ganges River. And then it's 3 steps. Where's my 3rd step? With two steps, he covered everything. So Bali says, very serenity, right here, put your foot on my head. And in this way, he became Bali the Mahajan. And then you'll see the story. So any questions on this purport? Robert ends the purport. Vāmanadeva, his lordship, Vāmanadeva, also teaches sannyasis and brahmacharis that one should not ask more than necessary. So the idea is that the sannyasis, brahmacharis, they're meant to be exemplary in the process of renunciation and austerity. So they live as simply as possible. The ideals of the sannyasis, the 6 Goswāmīs, it's practically impossible to conceive of who could live more austerely than that. They had just a loincloth, a little begging bowl, had no little cottage or anything to live in. They didn't even have their own tree under which to live in. They would go to live on a different tree each night. And some of them had been very, very wealthy. They would be billionaires today. Rupa, Sanatan, and Raghunath. Came from extremely wealthy families. Renounced all of that and took shelter of Lord Chaitanya. And he, instructed them, and he sent them to Vrindavan. And there, they proved to be the wealthiest, much wealthier than they used to be, because although they had nothing material, Gopi bhavada sarmatabda lahari kalola magno mahur. This is a line from one of the verses describing the 6 Goswāmīs. So they had endless influence and money, and they gave it up without hesitation. Turnam. You know, I said, well, maybe I should do it gradually so it won't be so traumatic. No. Turnam ashesha, endless mandalapati. Tuchabat, gave it all up as insignificant. Budvad dina ganeshako kadonayako pina kantashito. And out of mercy of the dina, of the wretched conditioned souls in this world who need Krishna consciousness, they established, the most austere lifestyle. This living, their clothes were rejected clothes that they somehow cleaned and then had, and they had no home, as I mentioned. They lived under a different tree. They would beg their food every day like that, But what were they doing with their time? They didn't have to go to work, writing. They were writing a lot, preaching, and also they established temples when they got, some wealthy landholder who was a great devotee. He would come and he would offer to do some service. Oh, build a temple. Sanatana Goswami had filled the first one, Madan Mohan temple, and Rupa built Govinda temple, and Jiva built the Radha Damodar temple. And they're there till this day in Vrindavan. So they had those temples, but they didn't just stop, wandering in Vrindavan. The temples were run by their disciples. So anyway, this whole movement is really going on the strength of Lord Chaitanya's teachings as given to us through the medium of these Goswamis. And Srila Prabhupada, who gave us the essence of the teachings in Chaitanya Charitamrita and the Nectar of Devotion, of course, the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So brahmachari, is training. It's been, based on giving up sense gratification, especially celibacy for regular principles, regulation, not eating very opulently and so forth. And so that's also, something that Prabhupada established. What makes it possible is if you're strict in your sadhana and your chanting, and you can get the higher taste, and you find you don't miss all these things that you maybe were attached to. You realize it's a great blessing. No more do I feel the urge to have this drug or this, sex or whatever. It's just you become satisfied, and if you're really serious, you can enter into the highest pleasure of prema bhakti, which is what we're aiming for. All right, any comments, questions on these two verses? I think the first one didn't have a purport. Yeah. Let us go on. Hope I'm not trying. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, so text number 3. So Bali is speaking, still speaking. I know that even until now, no one taking birth in your family has been poor-minded or miserly. No one has refused to give charity to Brahmins, nor after promising to give charity has anyone failed to fulfill his promise. This is Vāmanadeva speaking, of course. No purport. So he's warning him not to go back on his promise because he knows what's going to happen. Sukracharya is going to say, no, don't do that. Because then he'll take everything. And so Bali said, you told me to give charity to the Brahmins and the Brahmacharis and the Lord. Now you go back, I reject you. He rejected Śukadeva. Yeah. And, okay. So then text 4. O King Bali, never in your dynasty has the low-minded king been born who upon being requested has refused charity to Brahmins in holy places or a fight to Kshatriyas on a battlefield. And your dynasty is even more glorious due to the presence of Bali Mahārāja, who is like the beautiful moon in the sky. Purport. The symptoms of a Kshatriya are given in the Bhagavad Gita. One of the qualifications is the willingness to give charity, dana. A Kshatriya does not refuse to give charity when requested by a Brahmin, nor can he refuse to fight another Kshatriya. A king who does refuse is called low-minded. In the dynasty of Bali Mahārāja, there were no such low-minded kings. Now this calls to mind the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna was about to refuse to fight, right? That was his whole thing, because his friends and relatives, his beloved grandfather figure and teacher were on the other side. And he just felt devastated that he would be instrumental in killing them and so forth. So he proposed that I'll just take, sannyas and go and beg, But of course he wasn't suited to that, so he felt paralyzed and confused, and he sat down on the chariot, dropped his bow, which is a really heavy thing for a Kshatriya to do. And then he took shelter of Krishna as a disciple, and the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. And the first thing Krishna, told him, he was telling him this before, is that, what are you doing? You'll just incur so much insult from the people who you respect, the other warriors. If you leave the battlefield like this, they'll think you're a coward. They're not going to think that you did it out of some high-minded principle. So and those who are once honored, dishonor is worse than death. This is in the Bhagavad Gita in the first chapter, I think. Anyway, when Arjuna finally surrendered to Krishna as a disciple, you say, friend to friend, you never get anywhere. Prabhupada said you can go on forever, you never really, But the disciple can't argue with the guru, and so he accepted Krishna as the guru. And then as representative conditioned soul, he asked these important questions, and the whole Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So, but this is there. The Kshatriya must fight. That's also in the qualities of a Kshatriya you find in the 18th chapter, I think it is. Or I think it's it. So Vāmanadeva is praising Bali, and especially because he's the grandson of Prahlad. He's like a beautiful moon in the sky. Text 5. It was in your dynasty that Hiranyaksha was born. Now he starts praising them. Hiranyaksha. Carrying only his own club, he wandered the globe alone without assistance to conquer all directions, and no hero he met could rival him. When delivering the earth from the Garbhodak sea, Lord Vishnu, in his incarnation as a boar, killed Hiranyaksha, who had appeared before him. The fight was severe, and the Lord killed Hiranyaksha with great difficulty. Later, as the Lord thought about the uncommon prowess of Hiranyaksha, he felt himself victorious indeed. When Hiranyakashipu heard the news of his brother being killed, with great anger he went to the residence of Vishnu, the killer of his brother, wanting to kill Lord Vishnu. I'm not sure what he's referring to there. Seeing Hiranyakashipu coming forward bearing a trident in his hand like personified death, Lord Vishnu, the best of all mystics and the knower of the progress of time, thought as follows. Wheresoever I go, Hiranyakashipu will follow me, as death follows all living entities. Therefore it's better for me to enter the core of his heart, for then, because of his power to see only externally, he will not see me. Lord Vāmanadeva continued, O king of the demons, after Lord Vishnu made this decision, he entered the body of his enemy Hiranyakashipu, who was running after him with great force. In a subtle body inconceivable to Hiranyakashipu, Lord Vishnu, who was in great anxiety, entered Hiranyakashipu's nostril along with his breath. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is already in the core of everyone's heart. Ishvarak sarvabhutanam middesher janatishtati. Bhagavad Gita 1861. Logically, therefore, it was not at all difficult for Lord Vishnu to enter Hiranyakashipu's body. The word vivigna cheta, very anxious, is significant. It is not that Lord Vishnu was afraid of Hiranyakashipu. Rather, because of compassion, Lord Vishnu was in anxiety about how to act for his welfare. So, all right, I'm not going to read this anymore because I'm sure I'm stepping on someone else's class. But what happened is that we have the story of how Prahlad, unbelievably heroically, and when you realize that he's this little 5-year-old boy, and this monstrous demon, his father, Hiranyakashipu, who became even stronger by years of impossible austerity because he wanted to conquer the whole universe, so much so that he's holding his hands up for thousands of years, standing on tippy toes, and he wasn't eating, so the whole body became eaten by ants, but he's keeping his life air flowing within the marrow of the bones, and then he started to glow like another sun or something, and all the demigods were suffering from the heat. So they went to Vishnu, I think they went to Brahma to please do something. So he goes down, and he doesn't see Hiranyakashipu. He sees a big anthill with a glow coming out of it, like burning the whole universe. That's what happened. His whole body was eaten by ants. So he comes down and he throws some water from his kamandalu on the anthill, and out comes Hiranyakashipu with a youthful, very powerful body, And immediately he thinks that Brahma is God. He thinks that Brahma is Vishnu because he prays to him like that. And he says, "Oh, please give me immortality." And Brahma says, "I can't give you immortality because I'm not immortal." You see? So Hiranyakashipu is very smart. He says, "Okay, well, please give me the blessing that I won't be killed in the nighttime or the daytime." He says, "Okay." That I won't be killed by any weapon. Okay. That I won't be killed by any of the creatures that you've created. Okay. All these different, not inside or outside. So he has all of these blessings, and he thinks he's got through the back door that he's now immortal, you see. So they'll know you can't be killed. So I'm good, right? So anyways, he goes back and he runs the whole universe. He's so powerful. Narada Muni said, even I have to bow down to him. The only ones who don't is Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. Everyone, all the other demigods, they're afraid of him. So, but he's still very, very, very angry at Vishnu because he killed his brother, so he's not really peaceful. Anyway, it goes on like that, and then he sends Prahlad to school to be trained up, to take over the kingdom eventually as a Paka demon. So, can you say that? Paka demon? I don't know. So Prahlad is already trained. He's a devotee from birth, right? He was trained in the womb by Narada, while Hiranyakashipu was performing his austerities, his wife was pregnant with Prahlad, so he invited the wife, "Come to my ashram. The demigods, they want to hurt you, but they can't." So she came there, but she was so upset about Hiranyakashipu, where's my husband, that although she heard the instructions also, the metaphor went in one ear and out the other. But Prahlad, he heard in the womb, and when he came out, he was a pure devotee, but Hiranyakashipu didn't know that. So he goes to school after a few years, and he takes his son. Apparently didn't have a report card, so he wanted to know what's the best thing you learned today, Prahlad. He's got him on his lap here, and he expects him to describe some training up in Machiavellian, how to make kill your enemies and make your friends, But he didn't say that. He said, and this is the typical of Prahlad. Anytime he confronted his father, he always preached to him, which just enraged his father even more to the point that he wanted to kill him. But here, the first time, he just thought his teachers that he had assigned had done something wrong. So he looked at them and they said, "We didn't do it. We didn't train him up. We don't know where he got it." So he said, "The best thing I learned, Father, tat sadhamanye sudavayyadehinam sadasamudvignidiyama sadgrahat. Hit Fatmapatam, Griyamandakupam, Vanam Gatoyad, Hadamashrayeta." Now those last two words struck Hiranyakashipu like a whiplash. Because the last two words mean, "Take shelter of Hari." Are you kidding? He was trying to kill Hari for killing his brother. So he said, "Where did my son learn this?" So the verse is great. I mean, it's great preaching. Tat sadhu manye. The sadhu, of course, means a saint, but it also means something very good. It's very good, like bravo, or the best. So tat sadhu manye. In my opinion, Father, the best thing I learned. He doesn't call him Father. He calls him the best of the demons, Asura Varya. Best for whom? Best for the embodied soul, Dehinam. Tat sadhu manye Sadavarya Dehinam. Who in conditioned state, Sada samudvigna dhyam asadgrahat. This line is full of so much knowledge. It was always disturbed in mind. Sada samudvigna dhyam. Intelligence is always disturbed because you're trying to, you invested all your attention and your hopes and everything in the impermanent. We're permanent. We're eternal souls. So it's in essence an incompatible situation. We're covered by ignorance. We're trying to achieve our original state of bliss and happiness in this material world. But it's not made for that. You can't be happy unless your source of pleasure is eternal. But nothing is eternal here. It's all temporary. So that's what he says. Sada samudvigna dhyam asadgrahat. Asadgrahat means holding on to the impermanent for dear life. I give this example every time I chant this verse. 4 blocks away, we got the ocean here, right? And you see some people have boats. If you walk around, you see somebody in the back yards. They have boats that they actually go down to the sea and they go out. So they want to enjoy on the sea. All right. So as soon as they get on the sea, they've taken shelter of something that's tenuous. The boat can spring a leak or a storm can come up or anything, but they still do it anyway. So that's an example of the sadgrahat. And if this boat sometimes, somehow it springs a leak, then immediately there's great anxiety. What's going to happen? We're out here 5 miles from the shore. You know, all right, we got our life preserver. Life preserver. So the 2 people or 3 people, they jump in the ocean, life preservers. They got their cell phone, you know, keeping it dry, call the police, whatever. So they have hope that they'll be safe. But then if the life preservers themselves are faulty and they start sinking, then it's just more anxiety. So this is a sadgrahat, holding on to the impermanent for dear life. Now in ordinary life, we don't, not in a situation of extremis, but we're still doing it. We're holding on to the material body. Right? We expect it to, you know, to give us happiness and to protect us. We can defend ourselves, you know. But it's hopeless. The time breaks down the body. It becomes just like a broken boat, you know. That's his. So what to do? You know, the first 2 lines, he paints a very bleak picture of material life, of his father's life. He says, "Hit vatnapatam griyamandakupam." Give up a household life that's nothing but a blind well. Household life can also be auspicious for devotional service. There's such a thing as that, you know. So it's not. But generally, especially in this age, it's not. So give up that household life, which is nothing but a blind well, in which all your material tendencies are increased. You know. Well, okay. Suppose I just read it. Then what should I do? Griyamandakupam, vanam gatolam. This word andakupa is very instructive. Andakupa means a blind well. In a rural community, they have to dig wells for water, but eventually the wells go dry. So then they have to dig another well. But that original well can get covered with grass. It's very dangerous for animals or any human beings who fall in, because you know, there's no one around. You're in the bottom of a deep well. And Prabhupada said your only choice is to die crying and crying, you know, crying out. So the materialistic household life is like a blind well. You get caught in there, and you're so many attachments and hopes, but they're all frustrated eventually. So you have to give that up and take sannyas, basically, and take shelter of the vana. Vana means forest. It's understood to be Vrindavan forest. Because what are you going to do? Hadamashriyeta, take shelter of Hari. In other words, surrender to Krishna and become a devotee. And in this way you can be happy, because you're developing your consciousness to go back to Godhead and regain your original spiritual nature. So in that one verse he's got so much instruction. So this is Prahlad, and he kept doing it with his father, you know. And even when he was teaching his friends in school, his schoolmates, how to become devotees. So he was seditious. You know, not only was he not being a good demon, but he was created others into devotees. So his father finally said, okay, I'm going to kill you. And he had his henchmen, but he couldn't be killed. He was so powerful because he was simply meditating on Krishna, and he was protected. They tried everything in their arsenal. You know, this is millions of years ago. They, of course, tried to, you know, kill him with the sword and the pitchfork, whatever they got. He wasn't injured. He wasn't even hurt. Wasn't screaming. All right, we'll put him in boiling oil. That'll cook him up. He wasn't crying out in agony. He wasn't affected. What is this? You know. All right, we got a mountain over here. We'll throw him off the mountain. Didn't work. Crushed by elephants. They tried everything they could. Poison. Finally, his father said, "Okay, it's not working." So. Then the teacher said, don't worry, he's just a young kid. We can easily reform him, you know, like that. So he went back to school and went on like that. So finally it became too much, and Hiranyakashipu was trying to kill him himself. And who appeared? Who appeared to kill Hiranyakashipu? Okay, I'm not going to press it. You know. Tell us. Nrsingadev, Lord Nrsingadev. You remember that. Now you remember. Yeah, he appeared just in perfect form. You know, he kept all of Brahma's blessings intact. It was neither man nor animal. He didn't have any weapons. All he had was his sharp nails. Those are not really weapons. He appeared at dusk. It wasn't the daytime or the nighttime. He wasn't inside or outside. He was on the threshold. On and on. You know, look, so he tore Hiranyakashipu apart. And then he became known as Antarmali. I always have to tell this story. You know what Antarmali means? You probably can guess. Yeah, a garland of intestines. So he disemboweled them. You know, we had a devotee in Brooklyn when I was there, and his name was Antarmali. No one could figure out what it meant. It was Antarmali. We finally deciphered it. Whoa! If you join the Hare Krishnas, then you get the name Antarmali. Your mother's not going to be very happy. That was his name, but it's auspicious because it's the name for Nisringadev. Anyway, I don't tell that whole story. But Prahlad is one of the Mahājans. Is it 12? Yeah, 12 Mahājans. And he's one of them, and so is Bali Mahārāja. He becomes a Mahājan for Atma-niveda, and Prahlad for meditation, absorption and thought of Krishna, and so forth. So this is, these pastimes are all very instructive. And this, he entered Hiranyakashipu's body, and started instructing him from within. Okay, it was getting late. If there's no comments or questions, Vijay is not online, and we can adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.